Hello, traders. This is Rich from tradesight. This is a look at our market-leading stocks via our proprietary scans for the coming session. We've got this teed up for the coming session, which is going to be Wednesday, September 10th, 2014. Well, definitely the focus of the day today was the shares of Apple. Apple had their the big product launch today, and what we're going away with today in Apple is a volume bump, more than 3 times typical volume, and a contra candle right now, meaning that the shares are up a little bit on the day, but they're settling in below the day's open, which is a negative environment. We traded Amazon on the short side today profitably. That one has a downside CPS indicating follow through for tomorrow. That one's more than 3% below the day's open on a volume bump, and that one's really stretched out down below the VWAP. eBay is also trading very poorly today. We've got a volume bump, an open close deviation, and a VWAP deviation. A lot of volume today in KLA 10 core, but that one's sporting a contra buy signal, so that could be interesting on the long side for tomorrow if that's going to be the better side of trade. Netflix, a lot of volume there, and also a lot of volume in Sina today. So on balance, just a little bit to the sell side for the NASDAQ patch. Moving on to the financials. Financials are pretty weak today. They've been weak all day. There weren't too many terrific setups. We did trade Goldman Sachs to the short side. We've got a fair amount of downside CPS conditions, a couple of contra candles. Right now the CME is conflicted, and the contra candles are setting up in not the biggest names in the financials. So right now we're definitely biased to the downside. You can see we do have a couple of volume bumps in here as well. Moving on to the energy names. Energy names are kind of a mixed bag right now. ACI is really weak. BP sporting a contra buy signal. Got a contra buy signal with Chevron. PBR, all the foreign ones are still a little bit weak. I would think that the weakness in those should be coming to an end as we start to circle the wagons here after what is an extended move from the weakness in the commodity prices and also what's been going on with the dollar valuations. Moving on to the generals. Here this is really the most negative group. Got a fair amount of CPSs to the downside and a couple of RPSs, and I don't think these couple of buy signals are going to really be enough to really have the cart rated and made a little bit more even. Comcast is interesting. That's up still today. It's on volume, but it's sporting an RPS, so that's going to be interesting to the downside tomorrow. We've got a volume bump in McDonald's, and that one's closing really weakly, well below the day's open. Moving on to the housing names, mostly light volume here. NVR is notably weak. Pretty good weakness in Hovnanian. Unfortunately, neither of those have a signal. Transports today, kind of a mixed bag. We've got a couple signals on both sides and no volume bumps or deviations. And finally, moving on to the commodities, we've got a volume bump in Mosaic and also one in potash. And we've got a downside CPS setting up here in U.S. Steel, letter X. Keep an eye on the gold miners because the GLD ETF did hit the static trend line on the daily today. So I'm going to be watching that closely to see if we're going to start to see have a return back to the upside here for the gold miners and gold itself. So keep an eye on that. We've had a pretty extended move in the dollar. If that starts to flip around, we could see some relief back to the upside in that. All right, folks, as always, thanks for listening. This has been Rich for tradesight.